All right, Mikey, thank you so much, everyone. This is our Saturday edition of the Friday topical training, which will be by request with the groups. We're going to do and have you request the topics so that we can put those in, and then we'll utilize those either on Fridays or Saturdays. So please, everyone, go ahead and submit the topics you would like me to cover. Today, we're going to cover finding your frequency on branding and marketing. And so I think it's important as we start, we'll do Q&A after I give a little bit of background, a little bit of foundation in order to effectuate, helping you specifically with the frequency of what you want to do and how you want to do it. Um, we had prepared this, far before yesterday's training too, which was building a community and an audience, which dealt with the frequency side of things as well, just so we can reinforce some of the things in case you weren't there. Um, Frequency itself is a vibration. And the idea of frequency is that you send out a frequency like a satellite. And then there's all these people who have and tune in to their own channels. And so a lot of times when you say things or your brand is there, people aren't even aware it's there. And this can be for items, for people, for messaging, for products, for services. Some people can't even be aware of what you're doing. You don't fall within. And the reason is people only can be aware of that which vibrates equal to or less than you. So not only are there different channels, but there's different frequencies that allow you to tune in. So it's like a subscription model on cable, right? If you have the basic package, you only get these channels, right? And then you get the next package, and then the next package, and then the next package. And the only way that these people can even be aware of your product, service, solution, message, brand, whatever it is that they have to be able to tune in to your frequency. And so how do we, have a frequency that either one specifically targets the channel that we're trying to reach, that exact channel. And so for an example of that would be the lady on YouTube that opens children's toys, right? She has millions of subscribers, way more subscribers than I have. And all she does is open children's toys. That's because she has this specific channel, right, that has an awareness, but that these kids and adults are just enchanted with that. And that's a specific channel. And so we want to start with our brands and our products, services, and solutions, understanding the frequency that we're trying to reach, not that we're trying to give. And so what we want to then do is we identify the different channels that we're trying to reach, understanding those frequencies. Can we, and this is the process that I'm doing for my own personal brand, can I transcode my frequency into multiple channels and multiple frequencies so that people that have the basic package get ESPN, the next package, they still get ESPN, the next package, the next package, the next package. And although this package may not get all the different content that I give on ESPN, because they're not aware and they're not aware and they're not aware. Hopefully you understand. You can ask questions if you don't, because this is critical to the success that you have, because for the first time in history, you have access to 4.4 billion people and growing. Now remember, it's growing. And it's almost unfathomable how many people and the significance and power of 4.4 billion people there are. Nobody, including the Kardashians, are accessing nearly a high percentage of those 4.4 billion people. And so what we want to do is shift the paradigm and practicing how exactly do we communicate with those 4.4 billion people, and which specific ones, number one, are aware of us. So once we become aware, we now have to, they become aware, we now have to have a strong enough, consistent signal so that, okay, we know the channel, we know the frequency, how consistently are they hearing, seeing, touching our product, service, or solution? And then you have to deal with the multi-frequencies and the multi-channels of the same quality content. So how do we do that? Well, taking a step back, knowing who we're trying to reach is so important. So the what we're reaching them with now becomes the next perspective. And what we have to do is very simply have a foundation of values of our product, service, or solution, of our brand, of our communication. And so it's very important. People talk about being authentic, organic. It's just know your frequency and know your frequency every day by taking inventory of those values. It will always be essential to your frequency of who you are, how to make decisions, how to surround yourself with the right people, all the right ideas, how to be happy. But actually, as a marketing and branding tool, it's essential to know your values. And when you do, you speak to those values. You um, uh, amplify, right, those values with your product, service, or solution. Know the value of your product, service, or solution, of who you're trying to reach at each of the basic frequency packages that you're trying to transmit to. And you can evolve and allow that communication to start. I'm just specifically looking for kids who watch people open up toys, right? Open up toys. That's a, or toenail polish. I want to know, I'm only trying to reach people who put pink nail polish on. That can be that specific. And then you could start increasing and aggregating more frequencies for different colors and hands and feet, and then go to facial and all these other sides, and keep on going out and out all the way into some wellness brand that has a potential to hit even a larger audience. But the sizes of the audience, determinative upon who you're trying to reach and how you're trying to reach them, are extraordinary. They're unfathomable. And as we now realize what it is that we, the frequency we're trying to reach and the frequency we're trying to transmit, now we have to figure out, how do we capture that frequency? So we take inventory of values, and now the next step is, how do I capture that? Because the first step of transmission is going to be capturing what I do. One way, right, when I do something live, you can only capture so much. Now it's being recorded and you'll be sent the recording, that's capturing it. Now, what I can do with that recording is, if somebody wants one particular part of what I said, either the reception part, the transmission part, the frequency, the vibration, the channeling part, the different packages part, whatever it is, I now can modify that, right? I can modify the capture. And when I modify it, I now can amplify it or transmit it to the specific channels that I'm trying to reach. So one of the advantages of being able to, through very inexpensive technology, of capturing what we're doing for our brand, our service, our solution, or us, whatever we're trying to communicate, is that once we know the different channels we're trying to reach, the different packages or frequencies within those channels of awareness, also our own authenticity by the values that we have, we now can capture that, modify it, and then specifically transmit it to each of the different channels, to each of the different frequencies. And after we do that, we can also create a strategy, because it's captured, it's recorded, it's stagnant in its memory. You actually then can perpetuate it, right? Knowing that I may not be today as clear as I want to be with my message. I have a strong signal. I have and know the spectrums of frequencies, the packages of and for transmission, but I may not have the awareness of everyone today, because it takes repetition. It takes that quality content that's true to and aligned with your values to be able to consistently put it out there. And eventually that perpetual capture, that modified perpetual capture that was amplified to a specific channel of a specific package of a specific frequency, now has more value, because people binge watch and repetitive watch, and exposure and awareness through the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious continuum is so important, right? It's you want to be part of the personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions. You want your product, service, or solution to be in that quantum side of the personalities of each individual that you have transmitted your frequency to, and they have received. And so sometimes on the first reception, you don't have it stick, right? Why is that? Because we know that we get 10,000 new data points a day. let's say that your brand, product, solution, service, etc., hits that in one day. Well, we know that consistently it takes a minimum of 21 days in order to get to the subconscious, where your product, service, or solution can go into the 40,000 of the intermediate database that people have. And then if you keep on hitting them, you're hitting right your frequency at their level, their station, at their frequency. You're transmitting, they're receiving, transmitting, they're receiving, transmitting, they're receiving. Pretty soon they start picking up on it, and then you can become part of the quantum side, the unconscious competency that they have. They used to call this subliminal marketing, but it's not. It's not. It's a matter of capture, modification, amplification, and perpetuation. So the more that you can perpetuate, the more that you can give access. Now, when you become part of the personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions of somebody, they then can access not only what they are seeing today that you're transmitting and they're receiving at their frequency, but more importantly, they can now go proactively seek all types of other things that are at that exact frequency. And it's math. It's literally the exact same as any type of transmission of data that's occurred before. You're just the source. And that source that you have, you want to increase the frequency of your quality content, of what you are capturing, product, service, solution, or whatever it may be, because that gives you multiple channels that you can transmit to, multiple packages that you can within that channel, and then also as well as the higher and higher frequencies. So it's very important to understand how the frequency and the vibration works. How do we capture that? And it's really important. People ask me, well, what do I capture? I capture the things that are most authentic to or aligned with my values, my personal values, my personal values, my experiential values, my giving values, and receiving values. And so that's exactly particularly how we do that. And knowing those values, and we're talking about product, services, and solution, how do we know those values? Well, there's 5 things that determine those values. The first is credibility. Right? The minute that our frequency has any untruths to it, or overselling, back-end selling, manipulating, lying, or cheating to it, then immediately the energy will go there and people will seek how to discredit you. And the more credible you are, the easier it is to resonate in the frequency, to interact, and to be able to attract them as clients, as customers, etc. And so in order to interact in that manner, you need to be completely credible. So you have to go through continually with a fine-tooth comb when you're modifying your content to make sure that you make sure that you have that true frequency. And the truth is as close as you can to it, because you're going to find that. Secondly, you want to make sure that you have emotional attachment, right? This is frequencies and energy and motion. And so people buy on emotion for logical reasons. You want to make sure that you have energetically or emotionally some sort of attachment. The third thing is you want to make sure in your frequency that you have true value, not subjective value, but quantitative value. And so that quantitative value goes specifically to understanding at each channel, at each frequency, what their reasons would be, right? So at different age levels, at different sexes, races, regions, geographies, religions, philosophies, political groups, they all have different reasons that they see value in your product, service, or solution when you're marketing or branding it. The next one holds true too with the multi-variables of who you're trying to reach. The second one is impact. Right, we want to make a quantitative impact. Usually it's profit. That's a quantitative impact, but it could be other things, as we have seen today, with the relief funds and other charitable and philanthropic things. There are different impacts that people will buy product, services, or solutions in order to effectuate that impact as well. And then finally, that we're better and we need in frequency to our capabilities. Now, what's defined as a capability? What is the true quantitative skill of the product, solution, or service? What's the knowledge gain that can happen? So how's it going to enhance my skills, my knowledge, or my desire, right? And looking to seeing how quantifiably that a certain skill is going to be enhanced, a certain knowledge is going to be enhanced, which is incorporated in any type of experiences, etc. But this is where profit is derived from. And then, of course, emotionally, the desires is something that motivates, converts, or inspires me. And utilizing those three things, what do we use to do that now? So when we're capturing it, we use features and benefits. And the features and benefits could be one of just a product, right? A straight out features and benefits of a product or service, or the solution, or yourself as a personal brand. And the best way to convey that is through lessons and stories, right? People want to hear and understand lessons and stories. And in order to incorporate how that quantification happens, people can digest information much better since the beginning of time with stories, right? That's how we teach those lessons. That's how we convey value. And be able to do that effectively is so important. And so understanding how we find who is receiving, right? The receptors of the frequencies and the channels that we're doing is very, very important, whether it's in person, on the phone, via email, and of course, media, radio, print, TV, social media obviously being the largest of the pools that we swim in, one that can exponentially allow us to grow and accelerate. And I think it's important to understand in that frequency how the repetitive nature of quality content being captured, modified, amplified, and perpetuate works. You know, it's like a lily pond. And I know so many people out there just don't have the patience to understand how a lily pond fills up with those lilies. But those top covers of a pond, those lilies, they grow and double every day, and it takes about 30 days for a lily pond to fill completely. Most people don't know that. What day, when I ask them, what day do you think it would be halfway full? Most people say day 15 in a 30-day month, but it's actually day 29. And that's the reason that most people don't understand branding, marketing, and frequency, is that they don't understand that on day 29 is when the pond is halfway full, and on day 28 it's a quarter full, and on day 27 it's 1/8 full, and on day 26 it's 1/16 full. It's barely full, but yet they only have 4 days to go, because most people don't consistently capture, modify, amplify, and perpetuate their content with a specific strategy on who they're trying to address, and how can they have multivariable layers of different types of information by simply taking what you do, the context of what you're doing, your product, solution, service, etc., and capturing it, and then modifying it accordingly to what channel you're trying to transmit it to. And this is the most efficient, effective, and statistically successful way of monetizing or attracting what you want from the brand or what you're trying to market. And it could be you. And that's why we need to have the same philosophies that exist, and enjoying the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential, knowing your values, asking and attracting is so important, right? Not only transmitting the value that you can provide, but on the virality side of being a lily in a lily pond that can grow on day 29 twice as much and fill the pond, you need to have a complete strategy in branding and marketing that's asking people, do you know anyone else that would like this? And the best companies utilize the true authentic nature and vibration and frequency that people are just compelled to ask other people to help you in specific strategies of what? Providing more value, the 120 rule. When you manage and develop expectations correctly, the person who has received your signal, your frequency, your product, solution, service, or brand will be compelled to tell someone else. And so, looking at people in 4 different contexts, there's the people who are just aware of you. In the context of social media, if someone's just aware of you, they view some of your stuff. Then there'll be people that follow you, and those are people that are looking and shopping in the context of branding and marketing. Then there's the buyers, the ambassadors, right? That's someone that now has bought and loves it and is telling somebody else and selling for you, the cheapest form of branding, marketing, etc. And then there's the haters. I think the two most important people frequency wise to deal with are the ambassadors, obviously, because that's what really makes a business thrive, and the haters. Being able to understand why someone has a similar emotional feeling or attachment to what you're doing, except for having a negative outcome. And how do we understand why they have that negative outcome when they have such an emotional attachment to what you're doing? And figuring out why and understanding that, and then correcting that by communicating effectively with those people that do not share a vision with you. In fact, they share an emotion with you, right? Because love and hate are the same, like and dislike are the same. It's the same frequency. It's just turned upside down. To understand and find out why is so essential to getting the exponential growth, the lily pond effect, that definitely has the segmentation or understanding that you can't quit. You can see why 99% of the people quit when they're 25% of the way there, right? You can see by the time you get to 25% of the way there. So take the lily pond example, 25% of the way there happens in day, 27, right? So in the first 1 through 27 days of exponential growth, most people quit because they're not consistent, persistently enjoying the pursuit of that 30th day. And then the sadder thing is on day 28, on day 28, you're 25% of the way there. On day 29, you're 50% of the way there. And on day 30, you're 100% of the way there. So that's incredible, right? So most people, 99% of the people quit in the first 28 days of the month doing anything that has exponential growth. On day 29, another 99% of the 1% quit, which is really sad. And then people get to where they want to be and get the objective of what they have. And it's all a matter of branding, marketing, and frequency, the same exact context of understanding why it takes and how it grows exponentially and also can accelerate. And so this is how that frequency works. And how literally on a technological level, you have to be consistent, know where your authentic frequency happens, be more interested than interesting, to find out all the different channels, all the different packages, and all the different frequencies, and step by step, crawl before you walk, before you run. Use the AAA strategy to get alignment first. I talked yesterday about 80% of your time should be getting alignment. In other words, 80% of your time should be taken to find the frequency that you want to transmit at. And then 20% of the time should be in the capture, modification, amplification, and perpetuation to those different frequencies, utilizing all the different techniques that we talked about. But get alignment with 80%. 20% of the time, you should be taking action. And of course, through that 80 and 20, you want to always prepare for adjustment, right? It's an evolution, not a revolution. There is only great evolutionary ideas. There's no great ideas. That's truly what makes things happen. Why? Because if we're spending 80% of the time focusing on what channel I'm sending something out, what frequency and what packages, and how it's going to, in awareness happens, and how motivation, inspiration, and conversion all happen, that's the key mathematically to exponentially growing and accelerating your business through products, services, and solutions. And to me, it's a matrix that I utilize no matter what it is. And I have, that micro incremental growth and macro patience, as my boy says. So anyway, let's get some questions here. Let me open up the questions. And Anna, welcome. My question was about the haters. You mentioned them yesterday as well. I'm not interested in focusing in on them, but they could happen to everyone and anyone. And I wonder what types of things they do say right and what I can prepare myself for when I am in for. Can't imagine someone writing a hate mail to David. Well, they do. And they're funny. So usually, like I said, I know the energy of someone who doesn't like you or me or anything, or even hates it. you can't feel that passionately about it unless the reverse is true as well. Because the worst thing I want in my brand marketing and communication is someone not to care, not to be aware, or not to care, right? You don't want people not to be aware or not to care. And so thinking about that, if somebody hates you, I open first for understanding. And so my first technique is always, hey, here's my cell phone, call me. I want to understand why you're an ego-based consciousness, why you have a need to be right, offended, separate, inferior, superior, separate, angry, anxious, frustrated, guilty, resentful, whatever it may be, why you're feeling this way and what I did to do that and how I can correct that. Now, some things I can't correct because that comes from within. Other things I can help that person. And if I'm able to help them, I have someone that becomes an ambassador for life. Most of the time, when I approach someone who is not happy with themselves and is projecting that onto me, most of the time they won't call because they'll realize what the situation is. And if they do, usually it's in an apologetic tone because I've heightened their awareness to why they're projecting their problem onto me. And every once in a while, somebody explains to me, why they have difficulty or trouble. But know that it's just the issues turn inside out, and those are some of the most favorable people to talk to. Let me see what else we have here. Let me look in the chat. Some people may be asking questions in here. Hope everyone's thriving as well. Good morning. Let me see. Completely unrelated to the content, but he reminds me of the Force Ghosts in Star Wars with the slight lighting differences. Thank you. Be sure to drop any questions. Here we go. How do you determine what your value is? How do you determine the exact amount you're supposed to charge for your product or service? That is great. So you determine your values by taking inventory every day of your value. And so if you take inventory every day of your personal experiential giving and receiving values, you then can get an idea of who and what your frequency is. But when we're talking about money, what to charge for a product, service, solution, or brand, once again, that's evolutionary. You have to figure out the market. The one rule that I know is that you're better off to start to give something for free if you can afford to, but whatever you do, you need to guarantee profit. You need to guarantee profit. So what the most successful things are products, services, or solutions where somebody gets it and they have the 120 rule, right? It's like giving them $100 bill and asking for 20 back. Can you see any reason you won't want to do it? And that's the way that you want to run your product, service, or solution. Are you 100% emotionally, intellectually, quantitatively convinced that you're providing more value than you're asking for? Because if you are, you should be able to articulate that, and you should be able to ask the final question, can you see any reason you don't want to move forward? And so to determine price is determine what value you can guarantee. And, for me, when it's a value-based decision, and I don't have the data to figure that out, I do something for free to figure it out, or for a donation, to figure that out. And when I do, and then I see myself continually changing and figuring out how I can create more profit for people. And it's why, on, my business advisory stuff that I do and consulting and even speed, I guarantee, right, my value. I only work month to month. I mitigate all risk for everything that I do because I only want to be a profit center. I want people, to be as if, one of my clients' wife called and said, I'm just telling you that you need to work with my husband for life. He could never, ever. And I said, that's providing value, right? That's the profitability that they're experiencing. And I want to be able to guarantee that value. Can you explain what your wind down routine is at night? Sure. Most people don't have one because they don't pay attention or give attention to sleep. If you shift, most people think about, I got to be to bed at this time. I don't. I always look at, I want to be up at 4 a.m. every day. And so if I'm looking at, I have to be up at 4 a.m. tomorrow, then everything that I do is, attention and intention is towards that. And the biggest component of that is sleep. right? In order to get up at 4 every single day, sleep is a huge component. Sleep obviously is the most common denominator that we share as a habit. About an average of 8 hours a day, 1/3 of our life is spent sleeping, but most people don't study sleep. They don't have a sleep mentor, they don't have a sleep coach, they don't ask about sleep. And so since sleep is so important, one of the things that I realized from having a coach and from studying sleep is that the reason some people don't sleep well, they don't rejuvenate their body, they don't have a clear connection subconsciously and unconsciously when they go to sleep. They have interference, and that interference and those anxieties, obstructions, void, shortages, and obstacles to sleeping well or to falling asleep, which obviously don't align or contribute to waking up at a certain time, uh, is because they don't have a wind down routine. And so let me go through my entire routine to help people. So the number one rule about routine is, number one, you should have an adaptable routine and a set routine. A set routine is when everything's normal. An adaptable routine is when you have people in town, a party, a bachelor party, whatever it may be, bachelorette party. An adaptable routine is by what's most important to you. So let me go through my adaptable routine first. My adaptable routine is simply, number one, a minimum of an hour a day on my health every single day. Two, a minimum of 30 minutes with my wife, a minimum of 30 minutes with my son, a minimum of 2 minutes with my 3 teenage daughters. I will continue to tell my joke. I did ask for 5 and they gave me 2. And they're trying to give me less now that they are back home and live with me through this COVID. And then a minimum of 1 minute a day with my mom to tell her that I'm happy, healthy, love her, and appreciate her, which has changed my entire life. And so moving from there, a minimum of 10 minutes a day being a student in my calendar. And that's studying what I have planned during the day. That's studying what I don't have planned during the day. And of course, studying my sleep. And now the normal routine, which you'll see why the wind down is so essential. Why the wind down is so essential. Because I wake up at 4 a.m. every day. I meditate for 20 minutes. I get ready for 10 minutes. I work out for 1 hour from 5:30 to 6:30. From 6:30 to 7:30, I have family time. I'm sorry, 4:30 to 5:30. I work out. 5:30 to 6:30, I study my calendar. I do research for speeches and coaching and interviews and everything else, including studying my calendar. 6:30 to 7:30, I turn everything off and it's family time. 7:30, I start executive coaching. 8 o'clock, I execute on student in the calendar until 4:45. 4:45, I start coaching again. 5:30 to 7:30, I turn everything off. 7:30 to 9, I am once again a student of my calendar and a student of everything else. I do research for speeches, interviews, books, the TV shows, podcasts, whatever it is. I am researching. I'm more interested than interesting, especially being a student of my calendar. And then finally, from 9 o'clock on is my wind down routine. And the wind down routine is to make sure that I'm in a place by 11 o'clock that I'm passed out completely, clearly, the best of my ability and potential, connected to the most powerful source of energy and light that not only rejuvenates all of my cellulars, the 50 trillion cells that I have in my body, mind, blood, water, whatever, but also, that emotional side of things, of plateauing and growing, not starting tomorrow at the lowest point, but the highest frequency to move forward. So please, use your wind down routine, which will be temperature, light, food, caffeine, exercise, breathing. All of these different things can allow you to connect to and to plateau and grow in an extraordinary exponential way so that you can continue to manifest or attract what you want in your life. Very, very essential. I believe building an audience depends on your topic. If you talk about environment, it might be easier for you to build an audience. Now, how would you proceed to build an audience if your mission is to change a status quo? Well, I'd use the same exact way in an audience. Is that, number one, I would know my audience, and within that audience, I know what different packages or frequencies those people are at. Right? Everybody has status quo is not the same for every human being. Right? It is a frequency, a variance of vibration and channeling, and so then I would start looking at my own values and seeing how I could communicate and taking a whole picture of what I do, capturing it, and then looking to see how to modify certain portions of what I'm talking in order to, number one, motivate people. That's the first step, right? I want them to be motivated or stimulated. So that's them, to get up or get started or get back up and get restarted. And then conversion, which most people don't understand. There needs to be a step of conversion between motivation and inspiration. And conversion um, is taking that jet fuel and then converting it into inspiration. So we have to, number one, get people up, get them started, get them back up, get them restarted to change the status quo. Then we have to convert that energy over into inspiration. So using that energy not only to get them up and get back up, but also to clear the interference or void shortages and obstacles that they've created for themselves. And that has to be specific to each piece of each different frequency and audience. So knowing myself, knowing what frequency I speak at, that's where I'm going to start. And then I'm going to start to modify and amplify in different directions to hit different variances, packages, frequencies, or vibrations to widen my spectrum. Also, that strengthens my signal and, of course, gives me a clearer message, because remember, it's not what you say, it's what you hear. So looking good. Let's go back into the Q&A side. We're loading up in here. Joseph, how do you recommend building your brand while working for a company? So building your own brand while working for a company is one of the funniest things, because people ask me about side hustles. It's the easiest side hustle in the world, right? To build your brand is to take inventory of your values, ask and attract, be a student of your calendar, do it now, and practice ending fear. Building your brand is seeing what you do daily in order to capture your frequency. And so, being a student of your calendar and all of these different things that I say, you actually can, in person, on the phone, via email and social media, capture, modify, amplify, and perpetuate your brand. Whether you're at work or after work or before work, looking at life in and with the lens of productivity, accessibility, and gratitude. How much value am I providing? How am I accessible to everyone else and accessing what I want? And how am I finding the light, the love, and the lessons in what I do? Find the parallels and synergistic and supplementary things within your brand that you can use at work to capture, modify, amplify, and perpetuate. Utilizing this yourself. It's not an if or an or, it's a both. You just have to be, right, a ferocious Buddha about creating less interference and corrosion to what you want to do, instead of thinking, well, how, these have to be separate. They don't have to be separate. Now, they can be, right? There's plenty of time before the activity you get paid for and after the activity you get paid for. So if you take, for example, and tell yourself that 7 days a week, I'm going to spend a minimum of 30 minutes a day on capturing my brand, amplifying, modifying it, amplifying it, and perpetuate it. 30 minutes a day is worth more than 30 hours a week. Just by consistency, you'll already start that exponential growth. And I think people look at things, when you start lowering the bar, putting minimum amount of times, doing them every day, you'll see that you have plenty of time for everything, and for everyone, by the way. So take that for what you want to do. Jeremy, in regards to relationship capital, in case people don't know what relationship capital is, that's your net worth. Your network, right? It's the people that you know. In regards to relationship capital, what are the 3 ways you would suggest someone to create 2 ambassadors a year for themselves and their business? To provide value, right? To truly provide quantitative value, to take the time and put your attention and intention into the coincidence that you want of getting 2 people that will get you 2 people a year, and grow their business. So instead of trying to focus in on everyone, focus in on one person at a time with that objective in mind, with that specific, and you'll see that the segmentation of giving yourself, a year to do that. And that would be asking and attracting is one way. So every single day, if you're asking and attracting, meaning providing value or service, or asking people how you can provide value or service, or 2, do you know anyone that could help me? You'll find that if you do that in person every day, 1, on the phone every day, 2, via email every day, 3, or media, radio, print, TV, social media. 4, if you do those 4 ways, asking and attracting and understanding your key objective of one person at a time. I always call myself the Noah's Ark of marketing and branding, 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. And I have, the faith in micro or incremental growth, I should say. I have faith in incremental growth, and I have the patience for exponential results. Write that one down. You need to have, um, right, the faith to have and trust incremental growth, and then you have to have the patience for the for the macro results, for the exponential results. Uh, Perfect. I took a long break from posting on social media. I want to get started consistently again with all the different things I'm doing now. Should I change the focus from the apparel business brand to a personal brand, allowing me to share all parts of what I'm doing? Both, right? Both. It's very easy um, to lead with one bug light and then work the spine all the way down and then add vertebrae with partners, channel partners, ambassadors, followers, viewers, etc. And so what you want to do is both, always stemming from one, taking inventory of those values and seeing where they're synergistic or supplementary to your apparel brand. So you have your personal values and then see where they're synergistic and supplementary to your apparel brand. And as you build both together, you might be able to add other types of brands to it as well, or partners, channel partners, followers, viewers, ambassadors, etc. And so we're working in that context. Cameron, hey Dave, I'm looking to partner with a nonprofit for an event in September. I'm running a race with a goal distance of 200 miles. I'd like to utilize the unusual goal in creating value, both for them and for me, covering costs. What strategies have you found to be helpful for partnering with a nonprofit? And do you have any tips on maximizing the assistance I can provide for them? Well, first of all, pick a nonprofit that is aligned with your values, something that you're passionate about. And so, I'm a big fan of piggybacking other people's, nonprofits, but there's millions of nonprofits in America. So to pick the nonprofit, you want to have passion for it. So it's usually a result of something that you've experienced in your own life or something that's important to you. Childhood education is important to me. Health for children are important to me. And I also have local, state, country, and world nonprofits. So at each scope and scale, helping each of those. But the first thing is to pick the nonprofit by what is important to you. Secondly, is to understand that the best thing that you can do for a charity is raise money. The second best thing that you can do is give it awareness so it can raise more money. The goal of partnering with a nonprofit is for you to raise money or raise awareness so they can raise money, because the more money that charity has, the more good that they can do. That's the basis of the model of making a lot of money, helping a lot of people, and having a lot of fun. And so what you want to do is go ahead, partner with them, but come to them with what you can do for them, right? What you can do for them. And then of course, ask them, do you know one that can help me, right? Are there any of your sponsors, et cetera? But in the end, it's just a matter of being a profit center, saying, look, if I'm able to partner with you and I'm able to cover my costs through utilizing your nonprofit, but you will raise more than the cost that it cost me to run the race. It's just math, right? So go through credibility with the passion, emotional attachment, and then quantify the reasons, impacts, and capabilities. Uh, awesome. All right, keep the questions coming in there. Let me look over in the chat. There looks to be even more. You can put them either in the Q&A or in the chat. How do you physically go back to center? So going back to center is being a ferocious Buddha. It's the practice of ending fear. It's the fifth component to being happy. Practicing ending fear, ferocious Buddha means, one, we need to identify any fear-based emotion that we have, any ego-based thinking that we have, meaning identify the need. For me, the biggest ones are the need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be resentful, guilty, angry, anxious, frustrated, worried, separate, inferior, superior, etc. And looking from there, you then have to be ferocious about stopping. Right? So once we practice identifying when we, don't feel right, when we're in ego-based consciousness, when we're in a fear-based emotion, when we identify that our thermostat is on the way we feel, then it takes a lot of energy. I call it a ferociousness to stop. And go ahead, take any time that you've been extremely afraid or angry and think about, could I have actually stopped? Think about how ferocious that is, how much free will you need, how much love Goya you need. That whole get off your ass or get on your action, whatever you want to say, but you got to be ferocious to stop. And then in order to get to center, to physically go back to center, I straighten my spine, breathe deep through my nose and out through my mouth 6 times. And I just think about why I feel the way that I feel. Why do I feel the way that I feel? And as I come down, I find myself into neutrality or center. And then that allows me to remember my values that I took inventory of during the day and move at an accelerated rate, not in the wrong direction, not to create void shortages and obstacles or interference, but to move towards what I want. And move towards what I want. I try to find who has that, ask them for it, or ask them how to get it. Easiest ways to effectuate what I want there. Let's see here, Q&A, get down. Do you have a recommendation for efficiently focusing on 3 major things? A PhD degree, a major family responsibility, and my sports psych biz. The studies and my biz is only getting very tiny incremental growth. Is this still worth it? Okay, so first of all, yes, and yes, if it's within the context of your values. Remember, you want to have faith in incremental growth, and you want to have patience for the macro outcome, knowing that day 29, you're only one day. If at day 29, the pond is halfway full, day 30, it's full. Day 28 is by day 28 is where you're at. You're somewhere between 1 and day 28 in the spectrum of the pond, and you're thinking about quitting. That's what happens. But you have incremental growth. You're tiny incremental growth. You're going to have faith in the fact, that incremental growth and turns into the macro outcome that you want. It turns into exponential results. Faith in incremental growth to have the patience for the exponential results. And that's what you're going to do. Yes, it's still worth it. And those 3 things, what we want to do is find the synergistic and supplementary components, the independent and dependent variables that are the same. How can we maximize our productivity, efficiency, and statistical success? Looking at things, saving 4 minutes a day. Do me a favor, look at each of those things and try to save 4 minutes a day on how you do and study for your PhD, how you try to save 4 minutes a day on how you deal with the responsibility. And then your sports psych business, try to save 4 minutes a day on one of those. Each time you can save 4 minutes a day on each of those is equivalent to 3 full days of work a year. So that would be, 9 full work days, and you'll start feeling that you have plenty of time. I just gave you 9 days just by finding 4 minutes a day by saving. And if you continue try to find those minutes, you're going to be able to not only enjoy the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential, but start seeing more than very tiny incremental growth and experience more than the macro exponential outcomes that you're looking for. All right, Chris. Hi, David. This is a bit off topic. That's okay. This is coaching, private coaching group. I have trouble coming up with pricing for my business I'm starting. Do you have any suggestions on the best way to go about it? I've called around to similar businesses all over the country, and it's all over the place. Thank you. No, because you're looking outside, not inside. Chris, look at the value you provide and look at the profit that you can guarantee, the quantitative value that you can guarantee, and price it accordingly. So, if I can guarantee $1 million to someone, can you see any reason why I shouldn't charge them $100,000? If I can guarantee $10 million to someone, can you see any reason I won't want to charge them $1 million? And if I can guarantee $100, can you see any reason why I can't want to charge them $20? So work your way backwards, connect the backwards on the quantitative reasons, impacts, and capabilities, knowing what the emotional attachment is, which adds exponential value to what you're doing. And most importantly, make sure you're credible. If you're 100% credible in what you're articulating your value to be of your product, service, solution, or your brand, if you are comfortable and credible in doing so, if you are 100% credible, everybody would do it. You would just say, hey, here's this, pay me this. If I was 100% credible, that's all I would have to do. But everybody varies from 0% credible to somewhere higher, right? I don't know if anyone's ever been 100% credible, but that's my goal, is to, with a fine tooth comb, go through everything I do, from stimulating interest, transitioning interest, sharing a vision, managing and develop a vision, and thriving, to be as credible as possible, to increase my statistical success in what I do. But pricing is a matter of connecting the dots backwards according to the value that you can guarantee, quantitative value that you can guarantee. How do you know when it's the right time to hire your first employee? In the first stage of knowing when you should hire your first employee, you have to start seeing what skills, knowledge, and desires that you need in order to effectuate exponential growth of breaking even, right? So I just do a math equation of, okay, if I need this done, if I'm doing it myself right now, how long will it take for me to pay someone to get to a break even point? Because that's experiencing the incremental growth that I need to know that it'll become then 1 times, 2 times, 3 times profitability, utilizing that employee, and then even moving more into an equity stage of things. And so utilizing that philosophy, you want to make sure that you're looking at how much time will it take for these skills, this knowledge, and desire to replace what I'm doing to break even. And if that time and risk tolerance are worth it, then get your first employee. I always say that because of the value of what I'm good at and what I like, if I could pay people to do what I don't like, I'd pay somebody to worry for me if I could. Because I can find profitability and a break-even point within the context of time and risk tolerance when we do that. I got 2 more questions here as well. Here we go, Gigi. How can we make people collaborate and work together? We can't make anybody do anything, first of all. So how can we motivate, convert, and inspire? How can we stimulate interest, transition interest, or share a vision in order for people to collaborate, which means work together? And so what we want to do, once again, anytime we're trying to share a vision or make a sale, whether it's an actual product, service, solution, or idea, what we want to do is stimulate their interest, transition, and share that vision to work together, collaborate on a project. And the way that we do that, instead of maybe quantitatively with price, we want to look at what value we can provide to them in order to effectuate a profit or quantitative value for them. You're not going to get people or make people collaborate with you, but you will be able to provide value and have them want to collaborate with you, right? By the more value you can provide, the more people that will want to collaborate and work together for that collective good or collective consciousness. So it's just a matter of the 5 to Thrive. If anybody wants the 5 to Thrive document, go ahead. We'll post it up there. Mike will post it up into the private group. Stimulate interest, transition interest, share a vision, manage and develop that vision, and thrive. And that's how we get people to collaborate and work together. I use the word command instead of make. Let me explain why. How can we command people to collaborate and work together? The word command actually doesn't mean make or demand. It means work together in itself. So work with. How can we work with people to collaborate and work together? That's by stimulating interest, transitioning interest, sharing a vision, managing and develop a vision, and of course, thriving, where they, in the collaborative behavior and working together, inspire others to inspire others to do whatever it is for me, it's to be happy. Joseph here, set out to do certain tasks in a day, but there's a lot of outside distractions while working. Would you recommend putting tasks on the calendar? To-do list? Any advice on staying on track while accessible? Open door policy? Oh, absolutely, Joseph. Look, you've got to be a student of your calendar. Studying means paying attention to and giving intention to is what you think, say, do, believe. And of course, those unconscious competencies of your personality traits, characteristics, obsessions, and addictions. So you need to put by importance in your calendar things that you have planned. You want to be as efficient, as effective, and statistically successful. I use a 5-20 rule. So all of my phone calls, my objectives are to keep it to 5 minutes. All of my meetings that I do or interviews I do, I try to keep them to 20. Obviously, there's exceptions. I make sure, as you know, by my set calendar, that I have downtime, so that if someone, as I have downtime when I turn things off, I let them know, if through the do it now philosophy. If I can't do it now, hey, check with me from 5:30 to 7:30. If it's a family member or whatever, if it's in research time, I have all of those little set times. But do it now is a key component. Can I do it now? If not, it goes back into my calendar for tomorrow, prioritized by what's most important first, if not some other section of my calendar. But you have to be very, very to me, that student the calendar and do it now. You have to be very disciplined on how to use it. And with your time, keep practicing on not being distracted, being able to say, no, I can do this now, or yes, I can do this now. And if you can't do it now, figure out a plan downstream in which order to effectuate it so that you can save twice as much time minimum, as well as be exponentially more successful. So student of your calendar, do it now. And utilizing the calendar as your to-do list with those times. Cameron, if you're not used to measuring things quantitatively to define your value you share, how can you go about learning that mindset? Everything, as you say, is learned, right? It's just a practice. And so the number one way to do is to find someone that sits in the situation that can measure quantitatively what it is, and ask them for help. And practice it yourself. And so, I started this practice years and years ago of defining things with quantitative value and understanding the measurements of quantitative value, which are time, money, resources. All of these things can actually create quantitative value, because I can equate, anytime someone tells me you save 4 minutes, I can then tell you you've saved 24 hours a year. And then I can equate and say, what do you do today to make money? Put it in and say, so if I gave you 24 hours to do that, how much money would you make? I now have quantified and measured the value of saving 4 minutes. So, if I make $1,000 an hour and you give me 24 hours of productivity backed by saving 4 minutes with your product, solution, service, or brand, I have just made $24,000. And if I can teach you to do that, if I can teach you all to save 4 minutes, go ahead, take the money that you make for 24 hours of, 3 days of 8-hour productivity. And if you make $100 a day, I'd just say, you $300. If you make $100 an hour, $2,400. If you make $10,000 an hour, etc. This is how we quantify and measure time, resources, and actual money. But get in the practice of putting that mindset of quantitative value to it. All right, last question. Here we go. Thank you all very much. I really love where I am, but a bigger company has offered me twice as much as I make, my own assistant, and a plan to have equity. I am feeling guilty. Oh, guilty. Red flag. Ferocious Buddha. It's an ego-based emotion. I am feeling guilty because my current company has and invested a lot in me, my mentor especially, and I do think there's a lot of loyalty. What is your decision-making process on situations like this? Well, my values are make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun. My mentor, right, has taught me that. And if I was in the exact same situation, knowing my values, and if they're on no mention of family, this is all a matter of guilt, which is a shortage avoided obstacle, an interference and a corrosion to the truth. I would think that my mentor, who has spent all that time to build who I am, would be so proud of me and happy for me. And so what I would do is work through the offer with my mentor, give him an opportunity to match it, give him an opportunity to give you advice, and openly share that opportunity with your mentor who has, obviously taught you so much and has created a feeling that you would feel guilty, and then give him enough time to find somebody else and to offer him help to bring someone else on board if you can't match the offer that you have of doubling the salary or coming close to it, because there may be some experiential or receiving and giving values. But guilt should not be, it's just an interference. And so what I want you to do is to go and, in the truth, illuminate that, your value. And, this is a really hard thing. I would say 99% of my employees lie to me uh, for this very reason. 99% of my employees lie to me. At one time or another, they will lie to me for this very reason, because they feel guilty because that I've been a good, and then they end up hurting me because they lie to me, because they think they're protecting me from the fact that I've empowered them to move on. It doesn't make any sense to me, although it does, because I was young once, and people are just too afraid to tell the truth of what they really need. They don't trust the fact that their mentor has put all that time and value and emotion into you, and now you feel guilty when all he wants is for you to go and experience and grow. And if he can't provide what you've been offered, he'll survive, right? He'll survive. But he won't survive you lying to him, cheating, manipulating, overselling, or back and selling, or feeling guilty and angry, anxiety, and then resentful and blah, 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 blah. Don't do it. Go talk to him. Make it happen, Jay. All right, everyone. It is 8:01 and it's been tons of fun. I'm dressed to a T. I got more clothes than Muhammad Ali, and I dress so viciously because I'm a ferocious Buddha. All right, no more rapping today. I love you all. Come join me on office hours on Monday. It's 2 o'clock, not 3 on Monday. We'll continue on with the Q&A. Hope you enjoyed this. I sure did. I appreciate everybody. Remember, supply me the topics so that we can do this on Fridays, so I don't take up the weekend. And unless somebody likes the Saturdays better, I'm working with these groups. Obviously, this is the first group that I did, and it's going really, really well. Looks like we're managing the number of people and questions. We got through everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Remember, have a wonderful Father's Day and be kind to your future self. Have a great day.